Hello everybody, this is student Tien Kai here. Um, I'm doing this video because a lot of people recently have been asking me about religion. I've been getting into a lot of, it's been a popular subject for people nowadays. I come from a family who's very religious, and a lot of my understandings are not easily accepted by by people, not only my family. But I'm going to say some provocative things here uh, for a few moments of your time. The first thing I would like to say is that religion exists because it's natural. It's cosmic. There's a cosmic reason why religions exist. Um, Everything that exists for a purpose. Okay. Sometimes those purposes are good. Sometimes they're bad. I kind of believe that religion is the bad one, but we'll get into that. One of the things that people are asking me a lot about religion is that why, in spite of all the information that exists about the ancient past and ancient cultures and where religion originated, do people still cling on to these religions? And my answer is simple: religion is psychological. Okay, but there is another answer that relates to consciousness. The the ancients were conscious. They were perceptually oriented people. Today's people are not perceptually oriented. They're thought oriented people. I call them rational beings. Well, I'm using a term that Immanuel Kant used back in the 18th century. He did a work he called on metaphysics, the morals of metaphysics, and he called people who were extremely rational beings. That to him was like the pinnacle of human evolution, but it actually is not. Okay, uh, rational beings are not perception oriented, and they believe a lot of stuff that exists only in your head. That's how they function. Okay, um, but this book right here in particular, since I live in the West, this book right here is what I'm going to deal with for just a second. Okay, this book is a psychological corpus. That's what it is. The reason why people believe in the things that's in this book is because they're being psychologically manipulated to believe it. But how so? Well, it occurs through language. Obviously, if you look at this book, you know, you see written words. Most of these words are not do not originate from experience. Most of them don't. And in my last video, I pointed out that 40 to 50% of all human knowledge is what is called conception and abstraction based. Okay, not perception based. Okay, so uh, basically, the inventors of this book studied the human psyche, and they realized how to manipulate the human psyche passively. Okay, but what this does as a result, okay, is condition. It conditions the human being to see reality a certain way. Okay, once this conditioning sets in, it creates what is called a hermetic seal. It seals the psyche. Okay, and there's no way of backtracking out of that. The only people that can do it, as far as I can tell, and there are very few, are people who are burgeoning with a little consciousness. They can kind of perceive what's really happening and they can back up out of it. Okay, but how does it work? Well, first of all, you have to understand language. Okay, and when we talk about language, we talk about the origin of Christianity in terms of this proto Christian origins. We have to look at philosophers, namely Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, who all coveted Kemetic understandings, Kemetic enlightenment. Okay, they used Kemetic enlightenment to create a language system that adopts the use of conceptions and extractions to blend seamlessly with words that are based off of perception. Okay, so what are words that are based off of perception? Well, a good understanding of that are these: representational words such as tree or rock. Okay, representational words have to do with a ubiquitous experience everybody has. Okay, it's a tangible experience. It's a phenomenal experience. It's phenomena. Okay, that everyone can experience. Okay, um, so our brains are hardwired to communicate in this way, in this manner. We communicate representationally. We communicate by using perception-based experiences to convey to another person what reality is. Okay, we have been doing that for tens of thousands of years. Okay, that's how language was for us, and it's hardwired in our heads. And why wouldn't it be? Because reality is like real. You can perceive things. You know, you're supposed to. Okay. Now, in that perception, there are degrees of perception. There, you go from the tangible to the intangible. You can go from the concrete to the illusory. Okay, so there are degrees of ranges of perception. Okay, people who have consciousness, we pay very meticulous attention to those ranges, to those degrees. Okay, people who are rational beings do not. They do not do that. Now, one of the things that the philosopher used uh, in Christianity's proto-origins is they use what is called conception. Now, I talked about this in my last video, and a conception. They use what are called a conception. What is a conception? A conception is something that seems derivative of nature, but actually is not found in nature. Okay, and this blows some of my friends' mind when I tell them this, and it never dawns on them because we live in a matrix where everything is meant to psychologically manipulate you. Okay, almost everything, education, politics, corporate products, all of it is designed to manipulate you. So we live in a vacuum, a metaphysical continuum of constant psychological manipulation. It's no wonder, because 90% of all human behavior originates up here. So the people who really run things pay attention to this the most. We, however, on the other hand, are very vacuous. We don't pay attention to psychology. Okay, but what is a conception? It seems derivative of nature, but it's not found in nature. And a good example of that is this: a circle. A circle is extracted from a perceptual experience. But what is that experience? It is the experience of a sphere. Okay. When we look at a sphere from a distance, what we receive is the impression of a circle. Okay. We can't see the sphere in 3 dimensions. What we see in 2 dimensions is the impression of a disk, of a circle. Okay. So a conception is something that's derived from that limited experience, you see. So conceptions, you see, are limitations. They are constructs, word constructs or geometrical constructs that we create from limited experiences, limited perception. Okay? Now just imagine if you string a bunch of these limited conceptions together to form one entity. Okay? That's what has been happening with mostly all human knowledge. Okay? And that's where we get into what are called abstractions. Now, abstractions are really deep as far as I'm concerned. But to give you, but to bring home why conceptions are so profoundly dangerous, why they can be used to psychologically manipulate you, because conceptions depend on some kind of experience to have it all. For you to have a thought about it, to create a concept about it. So, if you carefully manipulate conceptions, you can get a person to think that it's representational. You see, you can get a person to do that, and a person will believe it without ever having to have ever experienced that in nature. For again, you can't. This does not exist in nature. You can't go out anywhere and find that. Okay, so once this process begins, you see, okay, then the psyche becomes open to the abstraction, to a lot of conceptions linked together to form one absolute conception entity. And what is that called? That's called an abstraction. And the best abstraction, the greatest abstraction that comes from the reasoning of a circle is infinity. Infinity. That's the greatest abstraction, okay? But there are more of them. There are a lot more of them. Okay? God is one of them. God, in this book is an abstraction. You see? God is not a perceptual experience. It is an abstraction. Okay? So this is what I want to help people understand real quickly. Okay? Now, what happens? What do these people who created this book, what do they do? What they what they do is that they blend, since circle is a word, you see, and since God is a word, you see, and these people who are believing in this stuff are not perceptually oriented. Remember, they don't perceive gradations of reality. They don't perceive gradations of reality in your thoughts. Okay, as they are represented in your thoughts, they don't perceive that. So merely because they're all words, remember the brain is hardwired to think of a word as representational of some phenomena. Okay? Check this out. How many Christian believers would tell you that no man created Christianity? That gives you a clue right there. They believe that it's natural. They believe that it's something that has not been created by a human being. That's sense perception language. That's the psyche communicating. It is sense perception oriented. But see, these people are their minds are so sealed, the psyches are so sealed, they can't even perceive what they're saying. Okay, they think they're saying one thing, but they're really revealing something about their use of language. Okay, so these people who created this book, they blend this stuff together. They blend it together. They mix an abstraction with a representational word in the logical structure of a sentence. Okay, they say, well, they use let's say they use God as the subject, but they will predicate God on adjectives and verbs in representational language. You know, they will say that God was in a tree or God was in a fiery bush. You understand? Trees and bushes are things that we experience as phenomenal. You see? So you keep blending the abstraction with the representational word, and pretty soon they become identical. Once that kind of conditioning takes hold of a person's psyche, that psyche is sealed. It will never ever be altered, right? Because the basis for it is phenomena. The basis for it is the experience of actual things. So these people believe they're experiencing something actual. They just believe it. There's nothing you can do about it, okay? This type of conditioning to me is obscene. It's obscene. This religious in general, but especially this is the most sophisticated corpus in the world in terms of psychological conditioning. It is the most sophisticated by far. I've studied all the major religions, Islam, Judaism, with the exception of Buddhism. Buddhism is pretty profound too, in terms of manipulating the psyche. Okay, but these religions are dangerous. Okay, to people like us, they're dangerous, and they divide families. Okay, these things will wrench close associations apart. That's why when I debate with my friends, they keep saying that we as black people need to do this. We as black people need to do that. There is no we. There is no we. There are 1.2 billion Christians on this planet. 400 million of them are black. Okay? Sealed, psychologically manipulated to an unalterable state. Okay? There are close to 1 billion Muslims on the planet. 250 million of those people are black. There is no we, because both those religions are the basis for their understanding of reality. There's no way that they're going to forsake that. All right, because that's how they understand reality. Okay, so this is an apocalyptic situation. I always say this in my video. This situation is apocalyptic. Okay, the magnitude, the scale of this is preposterous. The world we're living in right now is a very it's headed for something that I can't imagine what it will come to. When people stop perceiving and they start believing what's in their heads, I guess the next thing is for us to annihilate ourselves, because there's no need for phenomena. There's no need for it. So that's my take on religion. I'm just answering uh, the questions that people have been posing to me. This is why people believe in this religion. It's not going to change, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Bye.